It's April 2004, the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Mike Danton, a 23-year-old St. Louis Blues forward, scores his first ever playoff goal. But in the next game, he isn't quite himself. Even with so much at stake, Danton's preoccupied. Because that night, Mike Danton has planned to have a man murdered.
It's by far the most bizarre case that I've ever worked on.
What happened that night, and what led to it, has for 7 years been the subject of endless speculation, fueled by rumor and innuendo. So many questions, for so long, unanswered. Mike Danton was born Mike Jefferson 30 years ago to Steve and Sue Jefferson, who raised him in Brampton, Ontario, a gritty Toronto suburb. Steve was frequently in trouble with the law, including a conviction for assault.
Steve would drink, and there'd be nothing that's off limits. You know, from kicking the dog because it's in the doorway, to punching Sue in the face, to me trying to stop that, and then me getting it. Abuse on all levels. And
sexual, we're including sexual abuse, or are you talking about physical beating?
I'm talking about just abuse on all levels.
Would I yell at him after a bad game? Yep. Did I ever hit him? No. No.
You never were physical with Mike?
No.
Mike suggested to us, without saying in so many words, that he was sexually abused.
No, I never sexually abused Mike.
In 1990, when Mike was 10, he met a hockey coach, himself only 23, who would forever change his life, David Frost.
When you first saw Mike, what do you remember?
Off the wall, like out of control, no discipline, and just sort of a hard-working kid that you could tell there was just so much going on.
I hate my situation at home, and it was someone who was just like kind of cool and relaxed, and someone that I looked up to, hockey coach.
Mike was soon spending more time with Frost than with his parents. Instead of sleeping at home, he often slept just down the street at Frost's house. Frost says he felt an obligation to shield Mike from his father's abuse.
I confronted Steve, and I expected denial, and he didn't deny it. He says, you gotta do what you gotta do, Bone. If he doesn't play well, I'll put my foot in his ass and make him play. Mike got older, he divulged more and say to me, Dave, you gotta get me out of there.
Frost coached Mike's teams until Mike was 16, in Toronto and in the small town of Deserano, 140 miles away. Frost's teams won. His methods were controversial.
He was a motherfucker. He was a hard ass that got results.
In Deserano, it was later alleged that Frost, then 29, had engaged in criminal sexual misconduct with local teenage girls, coercing them into sex. He wasn't put on trial until 2008, when he was acquitted on all counts. From Deserano, Mike Jefferson moved up to the Ontario Hockey League, a higher level of junior hockey which feeds players to the NHL. Drifting further apart from his family, he was becoming more and more dependent on Frost, who was now his personal coach and advisor.
Am I going to sit here and say that, I never relied on Dave to make my decisions? Hell no. That'd be a fallacy. And not only did I do that, but I overdid that. 100%, for sure.
A man essentially took control of another man's personality.
Steve Simmonds is a sports columnist at the Toronto Sun and the co-author of Steve Jefferson's soon-to-be-published memoir.
He controlled the environment so much so that Mike couldn't think for himself, act for himself, do anything for himself.
He would basically do things to piss his mother off, constantly. And I'd give him shit about it, but if he yelled at him, he'd just go over to Dave's.
There must have been some reason why you did not confront David.
I didn't want to interrupt Michael's hockey career. I'm being a dumbass hockey nut. That's what I was doing, you know?
You thought David Frost was Mike's ticket to the NHL?
Yep. Yeah.
Frost was indeed molding Mike into an NHL prospect. In 2000, when he was 19, the New Jersey Devils, the reigning Stanley Cup champions, drafted him in the 5th round.
Yeah, I was like a proud father at the time. I'm like, holy shit, this kid that there's no way was going to make it is going to make it.
Shortly after Mike was drafted, he, his younger brother Tom, and some teammates spent several days with Frost at his cabin in rural Ontario. Steve Jefferson later discovered a photo taken on that trip.
There was a picture of Tom, 13 years old, stark naked, duct taped to a bunk bed. He was at the end of the bed with his penis duct taped to the bottom frame.
The picture was taken to the police, but prosecutors decided not to charge Frost or anyone else. Mike says his father pursued the matter only because Mike had refused to give him money. It was, he says, an attempt to destroy his relationship with Frost.
I know why things were fabricated, and I used to hate Steve with such passion. You know, he's a pitiful human being.
In July 2002, Mike severed all ties with his biological family, legally changing his name to Danton, the name of a boy he'd known years earlier at a hockey school.
I don't want my name to be associated with him, with her, with anybody in that side of the family.
In 2003, the Devils traded Danton to St. Louis. At 23, he was earning $500,000 a year. A hard-nosed grinder, more gritty than skilled, he was an instant fan favorite. Frost, who had become Danton's agent, shared in his increasing success and often stayed with him at his apartment in St. Louis. Yet even as Danton's career was gaining traction, mentally, emotionally, he was breaking down.
The whole anxiety of having success, money, power, there was so much he was suppressing, so much inside that he hadn't let out.
What specifically was making you paranoid at that time?
I thought somebody was coming after me. That's what I thought.
To kill you?
Yes. You mix in, pain medications, stimulants, uppers, downers, sleeping pills, stuff like that, with someone that has a ridiculous amount of paranoia and other psychological things going on in their head, and it's a recipe for disaster. And yeah, I guess the demons just caught up with me.
April 2004, just as the Stanley Cup playoffs begin, Danton approaches a bouncer at an East St. Louis strip club and offers him $10,000 to kill someone he says is trying to kill him. According to the bouncer, Danton shows him a picture of the target, David Frost. On April 13th, in Game 4 against the San Jose Sharks, Danton scores his first career playoff goal. The next day, he calls the bouncer.
Hey Ronnie, it's Mike Collins. If you can't do this, let me know so I can try and find another way to do this, because this is getting real serious. He's still at my place tonight and tomorrow night by himself, so he's not well able to. Alright, I'll try and get in touch with you next time.
When the bouncer doesn't get back to him, Danton tells Katie Wolfmeyer, a 19-year-old skating instructor he's been dating for only a few weeks, that a hitman from Canada is coming to his apartment to kill him, and that he needs her help finding someone to kill the hitman.
I felt like I had been backed into a corner, and there was nowhere else for me to go. There was nothing else for me to do.
On April 14th, Wolfmeyer recruits a man she met at a bar that night, Justin Levi Jones. Of all things, a police dispatcher. Danton calls Jones and tells him the target will be in his apartment the very next night. But Jones tips off the FBI, which puts a wire on it.
Welcome to HB Pavilion, a.k.a. the Shark Tank, where the Blues hope to stay alive in Game 5.
It's April 15th. Mike Danton's in San Jose to play in Game 5 of the Blues playoff series. At about game time, Wolfmeyer and Jones pull up to the security gate at Danton's apartment complex, where Frost is staying. Frost happens to be walking nearby and hears Jones say the name Danton to the guard.
So I'm looking down and I'm like, hey, who are you? And he goes, oh, I'm buddies with Mike. And right away, I'm like, bullshit. If you're his buddy, you'd know the St. Louis Blues are in San Jose. It's playoffs. Mike know you're coming? Oh, yeah. Not a chance. He'll stay there.
At that point, Jones speeds away with Wolfmeyer. Now the FBI makes its move, arresting Wolfmeyer and confronting Frost.
They thought you might be a Canadian
They thought
hitman.
I was a Canadian hitman. There's no question about it. I didn't know what the was going on, right? Like, who knows?
Back in San Jose, Danton has been struggling to focus on the playoff game.
We intercepted calls from Mike Danton to Levi, desperately trying to figure out what had happened. Here's a guy who just stepped off the ice. You know, his world is, crumbling around him. And what does he say? We'll try again soon.
Agent John Jimenez spends the next several hours questioning Frost.
So I sit down, and he goes, I think your buddy there might be a bad guy. And I'm like, my buddy? My buddy who? And he goes, well, I think the hockey player might have been trying to kill you. I get on the phone, I say to Mike, it's got this FBI guy here. And he's telling me he thinks you maybe tried to kill me. Mike bursts out like crying. He goes, no, I didn't try and kill you. So this whole rigmarole goes on. Dave, I'm up. My head's not right. I'm not thinking right. I'm not thinking straight. I don't want to live. This is crazy. I can't deal with hockey.
The next morning, Danton is arrested in San Jose, charged with conspiracy to commit murder.
When you realized what Mike had tried to do, how did that make you feel?
It depends on what you mean by what he tried to do.
Kill you.
Well, I never leaped to that. There was nothing they ever let me view that ever said that.
You still don't think you were the target that night?
You want me to leap for you?
No, I don't want you to leap.
I'm not going to leap.
I don't want you to leap for me. I'm saying that if this conspiracy had been carried out to its ultimate planned conclusion, you would have been dead. That's not a leap. I mean, that's...
I think, honestly, I think it was a cry out for help. Who goes to some 19-year-old kid for protection?
Who did you try to kill?
Steve Jefferson.
Your father?
Yeah.
At that time, it had been years since you had spoken to Steve Jefferson or had any contact with him. So it's natural for people to say, why would you think he would show up in your apartment? Why would he have a key? Why would he even know where you lived?
I'm just not going to discuss it. That's one of the things that I've maintained the whole time. I'm just not, I'm not prepared to talk about right now.
But you were the only person who could have been in his apartment.
He didn't know I was in the apartment.
But you were the only person who could have been there.
Could have been. Well, I guess.
Any reasonable person can look at the evidence here and determine for themselves that David Frost was the intended victim. And it really came down to control. It was an effort for Mike Danton to shed himself of the control that David Frost had over him and his life.
It was initially reported as well that Danton and Frost had been lovers.
I think it was a great headline. I mean, I'm sure it caught great headlines in Toronto, but it was furthest thing from the truth.
It's disturbing, just simply because I know what I know what our relationship has been like, and it's been anything but sexual.
In the days following his arrest, Danton called Frost repeatedly from prison in San Jose. Both knew their conversations were being recorded.
Hey, Matt, yeah. Listen, do I have to worry about my safety anymore? No, you don't.
Why would he say that to you unless he thought that you would put out a contract on him?
I'm sure there was a part of Dave in the back of his head that maybe did think that this was actually a hit out on him.
Several of the calls ended with Frost asking Danton the same question.
Hey, yeah. You want me? Yeah. Say it. Okay. Do you? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Bye.
Was that a natural way for the two of you to talk with each other?
Was it normal? No, but there wasn't a lot of normalcy with me going on at that time.
I can tell you that Mike and I did not end conversations on a regular basis like that, but I'm not afraid to say that my wife and I think of him as a son and I love him to death. And I'm not ashamed of the fact that he loved us.
In November 2004, 7 months after the murder attempt, Mike Danton pleaded guilty to a charge of conspiracy, but never named his intended target. He was sentenced to 7.5 years in federal prison. He spent the first 4.5 years in prisons in the U.S. Then, in March 2009, he was transferred to a Canadian penitentiary.
Prison saved my life. I have 5.5, 6 years of my life just gone. But those 5.5, 6 years are what is at the core, the foundation of this person that I am today.
In September 2009, Danton was freed on parole. At the age of 29, he enrolled at St. Mary's University in Halifax, Nova Scotia, hoping both to earn a degree in psychology and resume his playing career. As a freshman last year, Danton helped St. Mary's win the Canadian Collegiate Championship. He's carrying a near-perfect 4.0 grade point average and has been named to a national all-academic team.
I love myself. I trust myself. I respect myself. I make decisions for myself. I don't need anybody in my life right now. I choose to have people there.
One of those people is David Frost, with whom he still feels a connection. Frost these days is living with his wife and 2 young sons in Southern California. He's also writing a book about everything that's happened. Now 30, Danton is the longest of long shots to return to the NHL. His abilities aside, as a felon, he's currently banned from entering the U.S., home to 24 of the league's 30 teams. But Danton's past always hovers. What he did 7 years ago, and what he says was done to him long before that.
Do you still consider yourself his father?
Oh, absolutely. 1,000%. To the day I die, for sure.
Is there anything else you wanted to say, Steve?
You're not going to talk to Mike again, or you are?
I'm not sure.
If you do, tell him we love him very much and give us a call. And stop living the stupid f***ing life he's living. And you see Dave Frost? Tell him to keep looking over his shoulder because I'm going to be coming. That I promise you. I won't kill him, but he'll never walk again.
He's a miserable old man. And any time he feels lucky, get my number and call me, and I will come anywhere you would like me to come.
It's weird because the mistake that everyone thinks that I would want to take back, I don't want to take back. It made me the person I am.
Growing up in the Simmonds household in Scarborough, it was a battle. I got 4 brothers and a sister, and everyone scrapped and fought for everything that they could get. So, in the summer, I'd always I tried to get a little job. One summer, I sold chocolates, and obviously you don't make the most money, but at least I could afford to buy my own clothes and not worry not worry if my parents had the money or not.
Goal number 1 for Wayne Simmonds. He'll be a happy man. It's been a long trail to the NHL for Wayne Simmonds.
My family sacrificed a lot for me growing up. My parents, they're salt of the earth people. They worked hard, and they taught me that your work ethic is what gets you by in life, and I've kind of taken that to heart.
Tips it across. Simmonds scores!
My organization's called Wayne's Road Hockey Warriors. I started it with one of my friends, Brandon Sinclair, 3 years ago. Our whole goal was to help, raise funds for the registration of hockey players in Scarborough. We both got help from the community growing up, and we thought it was only right if we could give back. And this year, actually, we got the chance to sponsor 4 kids to play. So, that's really awesome.
Giveaway! Great defensive awareness by the Orange team. That was brutal.
My mom and my father, they both told me if I ever made it to the NHL, I had to give back, and that was kind of the first thing on my mind. The thing that made me stick with hockey growing up was just the love I had for the game. It didn't matter if I was going through ups or downs. It was just, the next day I'd wake up and all I wanted to do was play hockey. So I'd go out and play hockey. It didn't matter if I was, in a bad mood that day or if I was really excited. Hockey was always on my mind.
For Tyler Ennis, this is where it all began, his family's Edmonton basement.
That's pretty much where I spent my whole childhood.
When you go back to Edmonton now, do you still go down there?
Oh yeah, that's one of the first places I go.
Tyler spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours here. He shot hundreds of pucks every single day. There's probably 8 inches of plywood and particle board behind here. As he got older, he destroyed more and more. Our boys had a radar gun so they could practice their shooting pucks and throwing baseballs. The ducting and the piping in our house is pretty destroyed. These are all the pucks. There's a puck up there. Every time I walk around the basement with a ladder, I shake the ductwork and pucks fall down.
I used to cut hair down here, and I didn't mind if they were playing or whatever.
One time I was down there shooting and missed a little bit, went off the wall and smoked her in the face.
I just got smacked in the side of the head.
She just blew up her face, had to get root canals. 4
root canals all across here. And he felt so bad. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry.
So I wasn't allowed to shoot at that one end for a little.
Tyler's a gentlemanly hockey player, but he's injured his mom more than anyone else. So.
Yeah.
Kind of a neat little tradition that started was everyone that ever played hockey in this basement wrote their names on the wall. Jared Spurgeon, who plays with the Minnesota Wild. Theo Peckham was down here playing hockey.
Ennis developed great skill downstairs, but battled external doubt because of his size. One minor hockey team didn't even look at him in person.
Over the phone, the team cut him. When they got his information, they asked his birth date and which way he shot a puck, but then when they asked for his height and weight, after I told them what his size was, they said, come on down and we'll sign his release. So he got cut from his second team just by the tape measure and the bathroom scale.
I was a little depressed and stuff and was thinking, am I going to make it? And my dad and my mom were like, you're a great player, just stick to it.
Undrafted in the Western Hockey League, he impressed the Medicine Hat Tigers as a 15-year-old in training camp and made the team 1 year later. He loved it there, and that's when things started to change.
This is Tyler's bedroom, and we put this on the wall for him. He wanted dream big. He made Canada's under-18 team and Canada's junior team, and they won gold, and so dream big worked.
So Tyler, when was the first time you thought, I can play in the NHL?
At the under-17s, I made the All-Star team. I was like, wow, I made this 5-team All-Star team with Tavares, so that's pretty cool.
Ennis wasn't certain he should attend the 2008 draft because there was no guarantee he'd be a first-rounder. On the advice of his parents and agent, he went and was rewarded with a 26th overall selection. Now he's repaying the Sabres, a critical figure in this late-season charge.
Tyler Ennis gives Buffalo a 2-goal lead.
So now that you're here, Do you allow yourself to say, I've made it, I'm an NHLer?
I think once you say, okay, like, you know, I'm happy with what I've done, that's when you get worse, and that's when you're finished. So now it's kind of like, okay, I'm here. I want to do something special.